disorder. Now, why it occurs and to what degree it's sort of genetically or biologically based remains to be determined. But at the least, it's something which when people suffer from, it causes them great distress. It's normal behavior, and it has potentially non-salutary consequences. And we see, culture interacting with humans in a way which changes sort of the way disease is expressed. When smoking became a fashionable and prevalent practice in our society, rates of pulmonary disease increased. Because now we have such abundance of food and we have the types of fast food that are available at low cost, we see an increase in obesity, which increases the rate of cardiovascular disease and diabetes. It's reasonable to think that binge eating has emerged in a similar context.
Let me remind everybody that this is Science Friday from NPR. I'm Ira Flato. Gary, did you want to jump in before the break?
Yeah, I'm sorry to have interrupted before. I just wanted to say that one of the legitimate functions of the DSM is to provide for treatment. And I know it's not a treatment manual, but the idea of turning binge eating disorder into a medical diagnosis is to encourage people to research it and to look for treatments. I think that that's got to be understood. And the problem with that, obviously, on the one hand, that's a good thing if what you're doing is you're attracting attention to a widespread form of suffering. The problem with it is the one that your question implied, Ira, which is that where do you draw the line? Now, nobody's very good at defining disease. We want to think that disease is a form of suffering caused by biological pathology, but that's simply not true. And what's happened with the DSM, because psychiatry is relatively without these biological markers, is that it has become possible to pathologize a wide swath of human suffering. And I think that part of to go back to Dr. Lieberman's point about my being too abstruse and philosophical, it's not abstruse and philosophical when people go into a doctor's office, get a diagnosis of a mental illness. That diagnosis not only follows them around for the rest of their lives, it determines the treatment, sometimes determines the drugs they're taking, and it determines often their identity. It tells people how to think about their suffering in a way that telling somebody they have kidney disease does not, because we're talking about the human mind, we're talking about the self. I don't think that's a philosophical issue, that it is a philosophical issue, but I also think it's a right on the ground, pragmatic, concrete issue.
1-800-989-8255. Let's go to Dave in Pittsburgh. Quickly, Dave, before the break.
Hi, guys. You've been all very gentlemanly, but there's an economic side to this that I just think has to be talked about. With each version of the DSM, there's been more and more diseases or disorders identified. And each one of those disorders is given a code number. And those code numbers are like gold. That code number allows cash to flow, because with that number you can fill in a claim form, and that causes insurance companies to pay. Now, that could be an innocent sideline, but the fact is that in the writing of the DSM, over 50% of members of the committee had direct exposure to at least one drug company. The DSM-5, at least 60% had direct potential clients with at least one drug company. Now, it's all nice to talk about professionalism, but the American Psychiatric Society...
All right, hang on, David. Hang on.
Okay.
We're going to take a break and talk about this as an important part of the discussion. We'll be right back after this break. So everybody stay with us. I'm Ira Flato. We're talking this hour about diagnosing mental illness, why some psychiatrists, psychotherapists are opposed to the profession's new manual that's been DSM-5. Gary Greenberg is a practicing psychotherapist, author of the Book of Woe, the DSM, and the Unmaking Psychiatry. Thomas Insel is the director of the National Institute of Mental Health. Jeffrey Lieberman, president of the American Psychiatric Association. Dave in Pittsburgh brought up a very interesting case. Dave, you were saying that there is a strong tie between the drug companies and the DSM. Just hold your thought there and see if I can get some reactions.